we're going to go ahead and do our cleanup. When you're all done, make sure that your heaters are turned off. Unplug the flash heater. Make sure that you put this in a safe spot. Nothing is still underneath it because it's still hot. Also go over to your dryer over here, this heater, and turn this off too. There's two switches on here. One is for the conveyor, which you are going to turn off till it clicks. Turns that off. Now it's not off until you turn off the heater, which is up here. Make sure you turn that off as well. Now I need to clean up all my extra ink that's on here. I put down a scrap piece of paper on here to help as well. Now I need to remove and get rid of all of this ink that's on here. I'm just going to go ahead and scrape off as much with my squeegee as I can, and I'm going to put that into my container. First I need to open up my container. And I actually usually use some matte chips with this too. So if I have some ink that's on here, I can take my squeegee, take my matte chip, and I can slowly start to get this back into the container. Notice I'm on some newsprint that's here to help with this too. I always get some new matte chips. You want to clean up as much of this as you can. You go back to your print and you can try to scrape off more. Use those matte chips. Take that ink off. Now after you've taken off most of that ink, take your rags, wipe off the excess. Makes it easier for cleanup. The more ink you can remove before you start spraying it down, the easier it's going to be for cleanup. So take your rags, clean off as much of the ink as you possibly can, and then set this off to the side. If you have any more ink on here, you can actually take your matte chips, scrape that off and put that in here too. And me on the sides, try to get that off too. Also, when you're done, remember to take your rags, wipe off the outsides as well, just like we did before. Clean the excess off from there and from the lid too. And close that up. If you can't get it closed, take the rubber mallet, close that off, and take your rags and wipe it on the outside and put the ink away too. Now if I have any excess ink on here or on my sides, take your rags, wipe those down too. You want to wipe off as much of the ink as you can. It makes it a lot easier for cleanup. You'll see why I put that scrap paper under there too. Checking to see if I have any on my press, anywhere on the outside, anywhere that I have that, and then I'm going to throw my rag away. Now because I put that scrap piece of paper under there, that helped with that. If I have any excess ink here, I can take my rags as well, wipe down under here too, to wipe off any of that extra ink that I have. Now you can take this, throw this away, and take your palette tape off. Throw that away. Take release your screen off. Now remember when I talked to you about doing that spiral pattern? Because of that, now I can take my tape and pull up one of the corners, and now I can fill this. all the way off in one easy swoop and throw that away. Now we can go wash this off in our wash basin now. So come with me. Now, if you look around over here, there are the directions for this. If you forget, I have all the steps that are here in that order. Notice that for each one of these bottles, they look exactly like their picture. There should be no confusion. Okay. Now, when you're doing this, guys, you want to make sure that this, above all else, that you have your safety glasses on. Okay. Keep your gloves on, though. It's going to make it a lot easier for cleanup, too. Make sure that this is turned on down here on automatic. Okay, that is all the way up. And we're going to go ahead and spray our cleaner on here and let that sit to kind of get rid of our ink. So I'm going to take that first bottle, that's our cleaner, and I'm going to spray this on both sides and let this sit. Now most of our ink is on that inside. There's a little bit on the inside too. We can clean where our design is. Now if we let this sit, you'll notice it'll start to dissolve our ink. Okay? Always, guys, when you're done, put it back. Now we want to take our blue scrub brush that's hanging up right here, and we'll use that brush to start breaking down the ink. Notice it's starting to break down right now. And we'll want to scrub until we can no longer see the line of where our ink is. Okay, it will start to break down entirely. Now if it's still not breaking down, I can come back and get my cleaner again. I can spray that on there, let it sit for a little minute again. Scrub that down. Now, you could clean this off and save the screen for using later if you wanted to. This would be one of those processes that if you're done with this, you could take your regular sprayer and spray it off, and it should take off most of that ink. Now, you can notice that some of the emulsion started to come off, so I would stop. But most of the time, if you put the emulsion on, this has been sitting for a while, you should be able to clean it off, and that would be fine. Normally, if you want to just totally reclaim the screen, that's when we would turn on our power sprayer. Once we start turning on our power sprayer, we can really clean off our screen. Now remember, if you use the power sprayer, that's going to start taking off your emulsion already. Now any emulsion that's not coming off here, you could use the emulsion remover too. That's in the gray bottle. You can spray that on and let that sit for a little while too. You'll notice it'll start breaking up our emulsion. Now Now this is acidic base, guys, so make sure you guys don't get this in your eyes either. That's why you want to have your safety glasses on. Notice that's starting to break down already too. So we can take our blue scrub brush, start to break down our emulsion too. Now that's starting to break down. Also, try to spray off your sponge and your scrub brush when you're done, when you put it back, so you don't have ink or anything like that on for the next person. Now that that's on there, I can turn back on my... Remember guys, when you're holding this though, hold this down one hand here, one on the other hand. That way it doesn't kick back on you as well. You don't want to be too close, you don't want to be too far away. That cleaned off most of it. Now if you look really close and come on in, you'll see that while I'm looking at it, most of it got cleaned, but there's a little bit of ink that's got left over right here. Okay? Now, and I even put more on there with my hand. Now, no matter what I do, if I spray that with water, it's not going to take that off. Remember guys, just spraying it with more water will not remove it. You have to spray the cleaner on the ink and scrub it to break the ink down, then spray it with water. If you just spray it with water, it's just going to spread the ink out more and make more of a mess. So if you have ink on there, you need to take it away. Make sure that you take your cleaner and spray that back on that spot. Okay, take your brush and scrub that down again. That should take off your ink. You have to use your cleaner and your brush in order to break that down. Now once that's all clean, double check that if you have any ink on your hands or anything like that, make sure you take your gloves off, put on new ones, okay? And then the last final process, guys, if there's no ink on there, no emulsion left on, then you're going to degrease it. You only use this white brush for degreasing, and that's with the simple grain that's here. We're just going to spray this down on both sides and really scrub this down. The reason you want to do this last step is because that cleaner and that emulsion remover that you use leaves some of those chemicals behind, and you want to have all those chemicals removed. Really take this and really scrub it down. Really well on both sides. You want to take off as much of those chemicals as you possibly can. Spray off this brush. And then put it back on top of the simple grain. Okay. Now that you're there, last step, spray it off one more time. it to dry. Turn your fan on and let it dry. When it's done, you're going to put that away. Now you have some more tools that you might have to clean off, like your squeegee. Same thing, guys, with your squeegee. You might have to take the cleaner, spray it with cleaner. There's a smaller brush up here that you can use to clean off those crevices and get everything out of there. And those are all clean. Take your sprayer, spray those off. Make sure it's all cleaned off. You can take a clean rag, wipe that down, make sure it's all clean. If it's not, go back and clean it again. Now, the most important thing when you're putting away the squeegees, make sure that they're clean, and then when you put them back, make sure that they're put back up with the squeegee side up. You don't want to have the squeegee side down. You want to make sure that they're facing up. Make sure that they're up and upright, so that way if they were setting down, you might end up with divots or anything else, and then that might make it harder to scrape them. Once you're done, everything's put away, go ahead and turn off the drain. Make sure this is turned to off. Turn off your light, and you're done.